Jasudev. Yeah, Isha ji, let's begin with the Swagat Gan.
Thank you, Vijay ji. Jai Sadgurudev to all of you. स्वागत गान। आज स्वागत नित्य गुरुवर संत शुभागम आइए, अध्यात्म विद्या दिव्य ज्योति सोमरस बरसाइए, दोष दुर्गुण दूर करके शुद्ध हंस बनाइए, भेद गम गति ज्ञान गर्जन शक्ति द्वार हटाइए, खुले द्वारा सप्त सागर भक्त जन अनहवाइए, जन सदा फल विश्व शिक्षक शान आन बचाइए, आज स्वागत नित्य गुरुवर संत शुभागम आइए। बोले सद्गुरुदेव भगवान की जय। बैक टू विजय जी।
Yeah, Jasudev. Welcome everybody. Can I please ask Mr. Shekhar Joshi ji to introduce who have joined from this name? Shekhar Joshi ji. Are you Shekhar ji? Or, are you guys able to hear him, or is it only me not hearing?
Yeah, hear him.
Sorry, I could not hear Shekhar ji. Did you guys hear him?
No, we cannot hear him, Vijay ji.
Oh. Yeah, yes, Shekhar ji, are you able to speak?
Maybe he's joining back.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So in Swarved, we will come across the terminologies like Naudwara, Dasham Dwar, and Ekadash Dwar. And many people have also asked that what are those 9 doors in the body? So whenever the Naudwara is mentioned in Swarved, it refers to these 9 doors in the body: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, and 2 exits that we use for urination and stool. So these are the 9 obvious doors in the body. which anybody and everybody uses. And Dasham Dwar, the 10th door, which Svarved will speak as the Gupta Dwar or Dasham Dwar or Yogi Dwar, Dasma Darwaja. These are the terminologies used. Kundalini Dwar also sometimes, very rare. So these are the terminologies used for 10th door. And this is the door at the top of the head, which is closed by Kundalini. This is around Sahasrara Chakra, where we have the secret opening in the Sushmana nerve. There is a Sushmana Nadi, and there is an opening on the top of the head within the Sushmana, which is called the Shandwar. And then Svarved also talks about Ekadash Dwar. Ekadash Dwar is something that only deep spiritually elevated yogis can know. The one who have elevated their consciousness in the realm of Akshar Brahm, in the realm of that vibratory energies in the universe, which is called Akshar Brahm. Only one who reaches to the realm of Akshar Brahm would know about Ekadash Dwar. And that is why Ekadash Dwar, the mention of it, you will find in either Kabir Sahib speech, or you find it in Svarved, or in Vedas, where there's a hint of Ekadash Dwar and Dasham Dwar and all that. So Svarved has a vivid description of Dasham Dwar and Ekadash Dwar. Dasham Dwar being the 10th door, Ekadash Dwar being the 11th door. Svarved also at various places would use a term called Antahkaran, Vahyakaran, and Chetankaran. So Antahkaran, Vahyakaran, and Chetankaran. These are the three different things. When we say Antahkaran, it means those inner organs which guide the outer organs. The inner organs, the four inner organs are Man, Buddhi, Chit, Ahankar. Man, which you can loosely understand by English term called mind. Buddhi, which is intellect. Chit is one memory house where you preserve all your moments of the life in the form of vrittis. So the instance of the moment which is preserved in Chitta is called vritti. And this Chitta is never filling memory, it's kind of repository. It will never fill. Every moment of your life is being captured within your Chitta. Chitta resides in your heart, in the region of your heart. And Chitta is what is responsible for you to see dreams when you are half asleep, because it is Chitta that is then reflecting all your prior memories, the temptations, the desires that you had preserved in your Chitta. And Ahankar. Ahankar is also another inner organ. It is not the ego, but it is another organ, inner organ. So these four constitutes the Antahkaran, the four Antahkaran, four inner organs. And then Vahyakaran is 5 sensory organs plus 5 organs of actions. So your eyes, your ear, your nose, your tongue, your skin, these are the 5 sensory organs. And we have 5 organs of actions. We have speech organ, We have hand, we have leg, and we have 2 excretion organs. Chetan Karan. So Vaya Karan are 10, Anta Karan are 4, and Sadgurudev would also use in Swarved that Almighty can be realized, experienced only by Chetan Karan. So you cannot experience him by your Antakaran or Vaya Karan, but can be experienced only by Chetan Karan. By the word Karan here means, just like for any instrument, we call a term called Upkarana, right? Upkaran is a Hindi word for any instrument. Similarly, for any modes of actions, any modes of action is called Karan. I mean, the modes by which you perform some action, that is called Karan. So you can perform the various actions internally within your head using your Antakaran. You can perform various actions outward using your Vaya Karan. And then there is another Karan, another modes of actions, that is called Chetan Karan, which is nothing but consciousness of the soul. And Sadgurudev says that this Chetan Karan is dormant. The importance of yoga practice is to awaken this Chetan Karan, this consciousness of the soul. Many people think that yoga is only about relaxing, stopping your mind, breathing. In doing all that, you are only purifying your Antakaran and Vayakaran. But it is Vihangam Yoga in which you are awakening your Chetan Karan. This is the advantage or the uniqueness of Vihangam Yoga. Because Vihangam Yoga by the name itself is about awakening the consciousness and setting it free from the Antakaran and Vayakaran. So Chetan Karan right now is dependent on Vayakaran and Antakaran, and it is not functional independently. And that is why the soul is limited to the experiences that Antakaran and Vayakaran can capture. Whereas if it would use the Chetan Karan freely, then it could capture the conscious experience as well. And this is the whole reason we miss out the experiences of soul and supreme being, the Almighty, because our Chetan Karan is dormant. So Antakaran, Vayakaran, and Chetan Karan. These are the terminologies used in Swarved at various places. I would invite the attendees again to please ask question if you are reading Swarved. In the meantime, Shekharji, are you able to speak up now? Oh, namaste. Sorry, not sure what the problem. I can hear you anyways. I'm from North Carolina and I'm joining. Oh, for the first time. Okay. Oh, joining from the first session. Missed couple. Okay. Well, that's nice.
Namaste.
Thank you, Shekharji, for putting your comment. Yeah. Can you speak up?
Wait, can you hear me now?
Yes, very much.
Sorry. Yeah.
No
Mention, yes. I joined first and then missed couple, but
I see.
and from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Shekharji, the reason I wanted to talk to you was because we will understand. I mean, you'll find it more relevant if you also try to read Swarved at your place.
Yeah.
So,
I have started reading. That's I started joining.
Okay, that's nice. So I always encourage people to read Swarved and then discuss here any couplet that you are reading right now and you feel that it is useful to share, or it is something where you need some discussion on to clarify something. It will be beneficial for me too, because I'm also like you. I'm also Pathik. I'm co-traveler, so it's mutual boost. You boost my journey, I boost your journey.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm learning a lot from these sessions. So try to join in. Dhanyawad for conducting.
Yeah. Thank you. So, anybody has anything to share or discuss? So, either Swarved is too simple for everybody to understand, or people are not reading Swarved. There could be only two things.
Vijay Kumarji, this is Narayana here. The
Yeah.
second one is true in my case because of language and other things that I'm not able to read survey.
Right.
But I'm trying to follow through this process here, lectures and also the other
Right.
sessions that what we have been doing it. And I know
Yeah.
like last week we discussed about English part 2, but I am yet to get a copy of that. I'm waiting for that actually.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we have another version of Swarved English in draft mode right now. It is under review, and once it is edited, finalized, then we'll have a better version of Swarved English. But right now, there is one version of it which is in distribution, though that also needed some modification, corrections, and that's why it is not in mass printing, and so sometimes it is out of stock, because the newer version, which will be more corrected version of English translation, is in draft mode right now. And Sadhguru Dafal Dev, I was reading Bal Shiksha, Bhag 1 and Bhag 2. Sadhguru Dafal Dev Maharaj wrote 35 books, and Swarved is just one of them. So out of those 35 books, Sadafal Devji Maharaj wrote a book for how to, do the upbringing of child in the spiritual ambience, and what are the things that we need to teach our kids. Those are documented in Bal Shiksha. Bal Shiksha, Bhag 1, Bhag 2, meaning these are the two parts of the child education, you can say. So in that, Rafal Devji Maharaj was saying that he was encouraging that people should learn Arya Bhasha, not Angrezi Bhasha, because he gave this Swarved or other books to those who were boasting of their English. He said, please translate it. And then they surrendered. They said that, Swamiji, we don't have this rich vocabulary to express what you're expressing in Arya Bhasha. So Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj says that Swarved is written in Arya Bhasha, and everybody should learn Arya Bhasha, because the expression is very direct in Arya Bhasha. In that Bal Shiksha, Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj says that in Arya Bhasha, what you think, what you speak is what can be documented as it is, and expressed. Every feeling can be expressed with very rich vocabulary of Arya Bhasha. But that is not the case with other foreign languages. So, but then yet we are putting an effort to really translate it in English, and this is the whole reason for 100 years. This is like close to 100 years of organization, and yet none of the English translation have been approved by Sadhguru. And this is really very optimistic. We are very optimistic this time, because maybe Sadhguru will just do little bit here and there and allow for printing, but he's very strict on this, that even if a single word depicts different meaning, then it has to be corrected. He just does not want any dilution of the knowledge that Svarved has. Any general question then, if not from Svarved? Like, do we feel motivated for meditation? Yes, no. If yes, how? If no, why? Can anybody please bring some topic for discussion here? I just don't want it to be like that. Yeah, monologue kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Looks like the new devotees probably are very less in number in this call today, at least. I don't know why. My question is about ahankar. We discussed earlier as well. So
Yeah.
is ahankar really antakaran, or is it like, say, ahankar, the ego, right? Ahankar or ego.
Yeah. Right.
So,
right.
so I always get the question that man, buddhi, chitta, that's clear. These are inner organs.
Right.
But comes to ahankar, is it really an inner organ? Is it a quality, or so that? So it's a maybe
Yeah,
the way we use it so far is probably in a different
Right.
way, and that's causing
Correct.
confusion to me.
Right. See, you break the ahankar into two syllable word, aham and kar, right? So ahankar here is in the sense that an organ that associate you for an action, meaning you think about an action, but then who will perform that action? What is something inside that gives a signal for you to be functional for that action? That organ is called ahankar. So it is an inner organ. It is something like this, that you prepare the signal, you have all the design, but it needs one kick. And only when you do that kick, then the motor will start. So that initial signal, which is called, the actional signal, it is called the aham vritti. The ahankar, the function of ahankar is to raise the aham vritti. And what is the use of the aham vritti? Aham vritti is one that triggers you to involve into an action. If aham vritti will not raise, then you will be idle. You will never get into action. So it is something like it gives a kick start to get you into action. Without this signal from the ahankar inner organ, you as a human being will not get into action. Now, what is ahankar that we use as an emotion? That ahankar is the false identity about the self. So that is an ignorance, that is ajnanata, that is contrary knowledge. The ahankar, we have ahankar of, let's say, our knowledge, that, oh, I am so and so knowledgeable, or I am so much rich, or I am son of, or we might have ahankar of our ancestors, that I am son and daughter of so and so king, or so and so rishis. So all these are false identity, because we are not the body, we are not the mind, we are not the son and daughter of anybody. We are the soul, we are the spirit. So that false identity about the self is the ignorance, and ahankar that we show as an emotion is the reflection of that ignorance. So that is a different thing. And the aham vritti, the reason that the aham vritti raises from inside for getting into action is another inner organ called ahankar.
So how do you
So-
translate that into English? Like the second one is ego, right? That's what you explained. The ego is an
Yeah,
emotion.
the ego is already used. So because in English, whoever devised the English language, whoever made the English language, they could feel the emotion of this false identity, the ahankar, but they could never understand anything called ahankar as an inner organ. So they never had an English for that.
Okay, this
Right.
is one of okay.
Yes. So this is one of that.
Yeah,
And
that,
and we write it ego because only because the Hindi word matches, which is not correct. Ideally, I would refrain, I would not do that anymore. Even if I would have done in the past, it gives wrong impression about the inner organ ahankar. So I would not translate that to ego. Yeah.
विजय जी जय सद्गुरु
हाँ, जैसे सूर्य.
विजय जी मेरे को कुछ आई हैव a few questions.
जी. Yes. Thanks for switching.
Sure. चतुर्थ पंडल दशम अध्याय नंबर 44.
Okay. "44 back to same. सदगुरु ब्रह्म स्वरूप है, कर सेवा मन लाए, जीव भाव आवे नहीं, सब विधि ब्रह्म नशाए."
हाँ मुझे यहाँ पर ना the one thing which I could not understand is what is जीव भाव here.
Right. So last time, as we had discussed, that Jeev is soul. Your understanding is fine with that. Whichever soul may grab several layers of the body, it doesn't matter. The soul is still the soul. So soul is one category of consciousness, which is called Jeev, you can say. And Sadguru is another category of consciousness, which is called Sadguru. So even though the Sadguru is in the same body as other Jeev is in the body, but yet the Sadguru is now no more representing that Jeev, because Sadguru now has the flow of Brahm energy in him. The Ishwar energy starts flowing into that body of the Sadguru, and that is why we should not consider this body as the body of Jeev, but now this has become the body of Almighty, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Then चतुर्थ पंडल एकादश अध्याय 2 and 3.
Okay. Yes. दो पक्षी एक वृक्ष पर करे निरंतर वास, एक अशन फल करत है, अन्य रह सदा उदास. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is symbolically saying that what is Vriksha here? The Vriksha is this entire creation, right? So this tree, Vriksha means tree. So here it is just symbolically presenting that there are two birds which is there on this tree. One bird is the soul, and the other bird is the Brahm. So if you look at it in this entire creation, this creation is the zone of Akshar Brahm. Within the Akshar, so any coordinate of this creation, you will find Akshar Brahm. Because without Akshar Brahm, the creation cannot happen. If Akshar Brahm will pull his energy, then the creation will collapse. So that is why in every coordinate of this creation is Akshar Brahm. So let's read what's the meaning here. It says प्रकृति रूपी वृक्ष पर जीव और ब्रह्म रूपी दो पक्षी निवास करते हैं. एक पक्षी अर्थात जीव उस वृक्ष के फल को खाता है और दूसरा पक्षी ब्रह्म उस वृक्ष के फल को ना खाकर सदैव अलग उदास रहता है. प्रकृति भोग्य है और उसका भोक्ता आत्मा है. इन दोनों से भिन्न पर ब्रह्म है जो दोनों का दृष्टा सर्वेश्वर है. Okay, so what it talks about is three entities, three consciousness. In this creation, we have the soul who is the bhokta, who is the receiver of the fruits of its own action, and the fruits are really impacting the soul. The soul is getting impacted by the sukha and dukha of this life in this creation. But there is one sustainer, the creator and the dissolver of this creation. He is called Akshar Brahm. Akshar Brahm is not, even though without his energy, nothing will function in your body. Without Akshar Brahm energy, even your prana will not move. Without Akshar Brahm energy, even your mind will not be functioning. So it is the Akshar Brahm energy which is keeping your body functional, your inner organ functional, but yet he is not responsible for any action that you make. That is why it is saying that it is the Akshar Brahm who is, behind your body to be functional, but yet your desire is your desire. The action is being driven by your desire, the action that you are taking. And Akshar Brahm is only supplying the energies to your organs so that you can use your organs to perform that actions. So by that sense, Akshar Brahm is not involved into he is not architecting the action that you are taking. He is only supplying the energies that you need for performing that action. So in that sense, he's detached from all the actions that is been taken by the soul. And that is why the fruits is also for the soul, not for the Akshar Brahm. Even though the Akshar Brahm is also just in every coordinate of this creation, yet he is untouched from all the actions and the fruits of the actions.
So
And then it says,
that means that mentioned about Akshar Brahm in both the Dohas, in 2 and 3. 3 also talks of almost of the same thing. So and Akshar Brahm is part of the creation.
Yeah, so Akshar Brahm is always in the zone of creation. He appears in the zone of creation, and he is the base of creation. If he would not be there, the creation would not be there. And that is why the creation, the zone of creation is the zone of Akshar Brahm.
So एक पास सृष्टि में जो है जो create
Yes.
Okay, so Akshar is part of the एक पास.
Yes, so he is part of that Ekpad, one quadrant of Almighty. This is where he appears, and then when he disappears from there, the Srishti, the creation, will start collapsing into Pralaya.
Okay. And then we have 4, 11, and 9.
Okay. दो सुपर्ण स्वजाति में सखा रहे एक साथ, समान वृक्ष पर वास है, रसले अन्य न पात. Yeah, so जीव और ब्रह्म दोनों की चेतन जाति एक है. So as we say that the jati here means both are of consciousness type only. So if consciousness is one jati, if you say, then both are conscious entities. So by that sense, Akshar Brahm and the soul both are of conscious type. Here jati means type, you can say. Jati means type. So it is saying that जीव और ब्रह्म दोनों की चेतन जाति एक है, but the difference is that the soul is always limited. You know, the parimit शक्तिमान और परब्रह्म अनंत शक्तिमान पदार्थ है. So here it is saying that जीव is limited, but Parbrahm is unlimited. The Almighty is unlimited. एक अल्पज्ञ है, दूसरा सर्वज्ञ है. Soul cannot by itself become omniscient, but Almighty is omniscient. दोनों एक चेतन जाति के होने से और सदैव निरंतर साथ होने से सखा कहे गए. वास्तव में दोनों भिन्न वस्तु है. एक प्रकृति रूपी वृक्ष पर मन से रस ले आनंद लेता और एक रस ना लेकर अपने शुद्ध स्वरूप से असंग प्रकाशमान रहता है. ओके, सो maybe here it could be a mix-up thing. I don't know why it is at one place it is Brahm and then suddenly Swamiji is writing about Parbrahma here.
Yeah, I also get confused Vijay, about in the interchangeability of Brahma and Parbrahma.
Yeah, but ideally here he made it very clear. Maybe then in this he is directly talking about Parbrahma only. In the next doha, in the fourth doha, here he spoke about all the three. Where in the second doha he spoke about all the three separately, because he mentioned here okay, hold on. So I'm sorry that I spoke about Akshar Brahm in this doha. I think we missed to look at this point here. Sadgudev actually, when he said that in dono se bhinna parbrahm hai, so here he mentioned about this parbrahm Paramatma being different from Prakriti and Atma. So as we understood in the beginning also in some of the earlier discussion, that contextually Sadgurudev has used the word Brahm for Almighty as well as Akshar Brahm. But wherever he has to mention about the Almighty, then in Bhashya, Prathamacharya Devji will make it clear. So I think that's what he has done here. So that means in this doha also, दो पक्षी एक वृक्ष पर करे निरंतरवाद, एक अशन फल करत है, अन्य रह सदा उदास. Even in this, the two pakshi are, even though he has used Brahm here, but he has made it clear that it was actually for the Parbrahm. So do pakshis, one is the soul and the second one is the Almighty only. Because Almighty is also present in every coordinate. Akshar Brahm is present only in the one quadrant of it, but Almighty is in each coordinate of that one quadrant as well as in the other coordinates, other quadrants of the wholesome of Almighty.
Last line जो लिखी है उसमें sorry Acharya Shri ने sorry, the last line that he has written he here that in दोनों से भिन्न परब्रह्म है जो दोनों का दृष्टा सर्वेश्वर है. Is he not talking about being different?
So he's talking about Prakriti and Atma. Because he began from this, right? He said प्रकृति भोग्य है और उसका भोक्ता आत्मा है, और इन दोनों से भिन्न परब्रह्म है जो दोनों का दृष्टा सर्वेश्वर है. So these are the two things. He is taking the reference of these two things. Prakriti means the briksh, the tree, and Bhokta Atma means one bird. So briksh and the bird, one bird, and then there is another bird which is different from the tree and this bird. and this another bird is the one who is the witness of everything, not the one to receive the fruits, but one to witness all the actions. So Brahm here has been used for Almighty in this Doha. Similarly for 4 also it's the same thing. दो सुपर्ण स्वजाति में सखा रहे एक साथ, समन वृक्ष पर वासे रस ले अन्य न पात. It is the same expression in different format, different Doha, but it is the same knowledge that he has expressed again in 4. And that is why here also when we say Jeev or Brahm, so here Brahm is again the Par Brahm only. It
But
is
in-
not about Akshar, it was Almighty.
What will follow number 3? Number 3 again, it is Parabrahma or is it Akshar Brahma?
फल भोगी बंधन पड़े बिन भोगी श्रिता सदा निरंतर खेलता महिमा जासु भी. प्रकृति रूपी वृक्ष के फल को खाने वाला जीव बंधन में पड़ता है, फल को न खाने वाला ब्रह्म असंग त्यागी कर जीव का स्वामी है. वसुधैव प्रकृति में आकाशवत असंग रहता है उसकी. Yes, this is also about Almighty only.
But here
So
he Almighty is part of creation.
yeah, because the creation is not beyond Almighty. So Almighty is present within the creation and he is present beyond the creation as well. So in the context of the creation, it is spoken that within this creation we have the conscious individual consciousness and we have the supreme consciousness also. That's what it is saying.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm.
And then I have 4. I requested for 11 also. 4, 11, and number 9. Sorry.
411 number 9. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ni Akshar, here you have 2 different entities, Ni Akshar and Akshar. Now you guys will understand because we have already discussed about Ni Akshar, Akshar and Shar, right? So this will come handy in this. So Ni Akshar, Akshar Kshara, Man Jeev Brahma Samay, Hai Sab Mein Sabse Alag Ni Akshar Sukhday. So in this, Akshar, Kshar, Man, Jeev और ब्रह्म, इन सभी तत्वों में, so in what all tattva? The Akshar Brahm, the creation. Kshar means the creation made of these inert elements. Man, it's one of the inner organ. Jeev means the soul. और ब्रह्म, इन सभी तत्वों में. Yeah, so this is just the repeatedly it has been used, but this Brahm and this Akshar actually are the same. So please don't get confused by this. So Akshar and Brahm are not the 2 different entity. It is the same entity. But if Brahm is used here separately, then there is a reason for it. The reason for it is, if I go little, what to say, the literal sense, if you go by literal sense, not by the meaning of it, then literally Akshar means something which is non-destructible. Something which is non-destructible. So if you take certain time dimension, within the time dimensions, there are certain things which are born and it will cease to exist. So those are the Shar entity. But then there are certain things which are not, which will exist as long as the creation exists. So maybe Swamiji is trying to say that there are certain entities which does not cease to exist with the body. Even the body perishes, but that will continue. It could be, maybe, though I mean I don't agree to my own logic also in this, because then Swamiji has described that absolutely everything which is created is called the Kshar entity only. Whether it is the sound, the universal sound, or the Anhad, because at a time when the creation will cease to exist, everything cease to exist, just the consciousness remains. And so only the conscious entity is called Akshar. So at this point, I would just assume that this is Akshar Brahm, this is the creation, this is mind, this is soul, and then Brahm is again used for the Akshar Brahm only. इन सभी तत्वों में नी अक्षर एक रस परिपूर्ण व्यापक है. ये सभी पदार्थ नी अक्षर के आधार पर स्थित है. आनंद प्रदायक नी अक्षर परम सब में स्थिर और सबसे अलग है. So it is just a depiction of the first doha of Swarved, where Sadgurudev has written that Satya asatya se alag hai, so par Satya Swarup. So there Swamiji has clearly defined that what are those Satya entity. So Satya entities are the Akshar Brahm, the Prakriti, all the eternal entities. Those are the Satya entity. And then Asatya is the Shar entity, meaning the creation. Anything which is created out of the Parmanu, they are the Shar entity. So again, the same thing here, just in different terminologies.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And the last is 4, 12, and 8.
4, Chaturth Mandal, and what chapter you said?
12th Adhyaya.
12th, 4, 12, and 8. गुरु स्वभाव मम वृत्ति होई, उत्तर कभी न भूल से अस सुबुद्धि जन होई. Yeah, so this is now you have come to a chapter where it motivates us to have zero ego in front of Guru. Whatever Guru says, for us, that is the commandment. So Sadguru के स्वभाव के अनुकूल मेरा आचरण हो. So meaning, if whatever is Sadguru's wish, that should become our commandment of life. If Sadguru says, I want ekant, then we should not think about anything. Just go away from Sadguru. And when Sadguru says, I need you for so and so, so we should not think about anything. We should just straight go to the Sadguru. So this bhav is where we don't have our own impression or our own wish, but Sadguru's wish is our commandment. If Sadguru says yes, then it's yes for us. Sadgurudev says no, it's no for us. There is an example for it. In Kabir Sahib time, there was a disciple, a lady disciple. So when Sadgurudev will say that, oh, it was basically the noon, the 12 noon time, and very sunny, and Kabir Sahib will say that, oh, it's a deep dark here. Can you please bring the light? So Lalten, that time people used to use to lit to get the light. So she will not think about anything. She will bring the light and will present to Kabir Sahib, and then she will say, oh, now it is a bright light, it's sun, take it away. And then she will take it away. She will not think anything about just to cut the words of Sadguru Kabir Sahib. She will just obey it. And that kind of vritti is called Guru Swabhav Mam Vritti Ho. That is what is Guru Swabhav Mam Vritti Ho. Whatever Guru says, you just obey it. And Sadguru is the one who is testing Shishya Bhav. Only when we kill ourselves, when we become mritak, dead, when we become dead in front of Guru, then only Sadguru is pleased with our samarpan, with our surrenderness. So these are the ways to test. Sadguru will test by all these, and we'll see if we still carry any kind of ego about ourselves. So Sadguru के स्वभाव के अनुकूल मेरा आचरण हो एवं उनके आदेश का सदैव पालन हो तथा उनके वचन का उत्तर कभी भूल करके भी ना हो.
ये मुझे
हाँ.
I could not understand the meaning of the line.
No, it simply means that Swamiji says something and we start correcting Swamiji, right? Because of our intellect and our own, we start giving some suggestion to Swamiji. So that is what is mentioned here. If Swamiji gives any commandment, if Swamiji did not ask for anything, then there is no point of us saying anything to Swamiji. Only if Swamiji asks something, then as his commandment, we say something. But if Swamiji is saying something, then our responsibility, we should be only receiving it. If Swamiji is saying something, we should be receiving it. We should not say but and if in Swamiji's word.
No, Vijay, let me like a more practical manner. I was trying to when I went and Swamiji was gracious and I was able to see his Vyakt form. So in that situation, he asked me a question. Question was कि कुछ अनुभव होता है. No, sorry, कुछ अनुभव होता है. So when I read this sentence, I thought that should I even have responded to him? Should I have kept quiet? Because he's saying something and he's saying that वचन का उत्तर कोई भूल करके भी ना हो.
No. उनके वचन का उत्तर, meaning here it is only in the sense that Swamiji says something, he is passing on some message to you, and then we want to, kind of argue back with our own logic into it. We start putting our own point into that. On that respect, it is being said. But if Swamiji is asking for your opinion, then that is the instructions. If Swamiji is asking for something, then we can express something by saying, Swamiji, aap to sarvagani, you are the omniscient, you know everything. But if you really want me to say something, then my little knowledge says this. But I know you know everything. So at least we can just first express that I know Swamiji that you already know everything. You're just taking my examination. My little buddhi says only this much.
I got into another practical situation, Vijay, also, if you could help me understand that. So what happened that Swamiji, in fact, was out of town. He came very late, and he had time to, and then I was able to see him at around 10:30 in the night.
Yeah.
So what he told me after that अभी काफी समय हो गया है, लेट हो गया है, तो आप कृपया यहीं रात को सो जाएं. So my intellect told me that no, I should not be bothering anybody. I said no, Swamiji, I can go. I have the pass. I can easily go home. So he insisted 2-3 times, and I said no, I will not. So was I correct in my response, or should I have simply said yes to it? Till date, I have not understood as to what should I be my response.
I think here I need help from other sevaks of Swamiji. Where is Niranjan ji, Raj ji? Are they not here? Because these are very contextual, actually. Swamiji, to understanding Swamiji is very difficult, because from different frame of mind he will be speaking. Sometimes he will speak as a Sadguru and in the commandment mode. That time you will know, and you can simply obey it, whatever Sadgurudev says. Sometimes he will do his Vyavaharikta also. So maybe his words is doing the Vyavaharikta, and then leaving it up to us. If we, he gives the freedom basically by doing his Vyavaharikta. He gives the freedom that if you really had thought about living in the ashram, then by hearing the words of Swamiji at least will make you easy that yes, I had thought of spending one night, and see, Swamiji is also saying me to spend one night. If Swamiji himself will not tell, then you'll be in hesitation. If, let's say, you had thought yourself that I will stay in the ashram, and nobody is offering you that, then you will hesitate whether to stay or not. So Swamiji from his side may do sometimes Vyaharikta also, just the etiquettes, simple etiquettes. When any guest come in the house, we offer, right, that, oh, it's too late, you should stay at our place only. So sometimes Swamiji is doing Vyaharikta also, but then we should also remember our Vyaharikta. So just like we go to other places, and if somebody offers us this, that, hey, it's very late, why don't you stay here only? But then we think that, no, why to bother them? No, I can go, I'm fine, I can go. So in what context Swamiji is saying, if we can understand, if it is the commandment, if it is in the mode of commandment, then we have to accept it. And that we can figure out if Swamiji repeatedly says this. Okay, because first time, let's say he said you can consider it as Vyaharikta, so fine, you can say, no Swamiji, I'm fine, I can go, it's okay. But if Swamiji insists, then I think then there is some secret. If Swamiji is insisting, that means then we cannot argue back, we cannot do this, because that phase of etiquettes is over now. He offered, you said, no Swamiji, it's okay, but then he says again. That means now it is beyond etiquettes. So understanding this whole aspect of how Swamiji behaves is beyond my capacity right now, because I have not spent as much personal time with Swamiji as other people might have already done. They know Swamiji very well. Sometimes Swamiji eyes will say something, and mouth will say something else, and heart will have something else. And he has to maintain all the etiquettes. That's why his word will fulfill the etiquettes, his eyes will tell something else, and his heart will have something else. Understanding Swamiji is another examination for us. How much we have known Swamiji is known by these situations only. Whether we are able to understand every word of Swamiji, what he really means. So he speaks one thing, he will mean something else, and something else will happen. So there are three different things going on. And it is all the test. And there are disciples who have now reached to that level where Swamiji will say something, the literal meaning of that word will be something else, but what he wanted to convey, those dear disciples will understand. So there are two analyses in this. One will say that means Swamiji his heart has something else and the words have something else. No, actually not. If that is the case, then the dear disciples would also not understand that. But how come dear disciples are able to understand what Swamiji is saying? So whatever is in Swamiji's heart, it is understood by those dear disciples in whatever words he will express. But those new people will take it literally and will not understand. So it is very difficult, only when you're in deep, you're deeply purified, and each and you're kind of in Sumiran of Sadgurudev all the moment, then all the feelings of Sadgurudev will start coming into you. And when you reach to that level, then when you are with Swamiji, then his little gesture also you'll start understanding. And many a time when Swamiji will be on the stage, and whoever is the sevak, Swamiji will just move his thumb and or his eyes, and those dear disciples will understand, because they keep their chetana, their consciousness in every part of the body of Swamiji, because they know that Swamiji can gesture with eyes, with toes, he can gesture with a little twist in the body. So they really remain very alert, and they understand Swamiji's gesture. So that's why I'm saying, in what context Swamiji was saying, and in what mode, in what pitch of the sound Swamiji was saying, everything matters.
Jai Shri Gurudev, this is Raj Kumar.
Yeah, Rajji. Yes, Rajji.
Sorry, conversation, but question what I heard from the thing which I heard from Vijayji. Yes, I mean it is really true. It is very hard to, you know, even in Swarved also Swamiji says like ek Gurudev ka ananta vichar, means whatever Swamiji says, it is we have to think from multiple dimensions. It's not just like we have to think one dimension. It is actually multiple dimension. It can be Vyavharikta, it can be Sadhguru's like kind of Adesh, but it depends on what situation. Truly, like Vijayji when he said, like, it all depends on situation and things, and so it's a little difficult to understand Sadhguru. When he says something, we have to think multiple dimensions. So that is what is it, because I remember like one incident happened with me. It's was like in when she was here. It was like outside, and I was you know, going up and barefoot. And time Swami said me one thing is don't like roam with bare because you will get cold from there. And I didn't, you know, I just ignored that thing. If I say it very truly, when Sadhguru said that thing, like he's some like I see that thing happening now. Is like if I go with barefoot on, like, you know, cold, something, not even cold, like if I'm sitting at a home, even wooden floor, in my feet I feel a lot of cold. So if I'm wearing like, you know, slippers, it's better. What I'm saying is, like, when Sadhguru is something, you have to multiple perspective, not just like you know, one thing or stuff like that, because Sadhguru is very, very you know, vast satta. It sees many things, and so, yeah, I really agree with whatever he said. It's really true. Was one another instance I heard was of a person. He came with one of the Vihangam Yoga disciple, and when he came to take darshan from Swamiji, morning time, and Swamiji asked him, like, Swamiji told him these words, like, आपको विचार करना चाहिए कि आप कहाँ आए हैं, या for some what thing you came, purpose you came. So that person didn't realize what Swamiji said. The disciple who brought him, he didn't realize, I mean, notice that much. Then what happens is Swamiji, I did them for the lunch also, and that person again came in the lunch. Like also Swamiji asked him the same, कि आप विचार करना चाहिए कि आप कब से आए या क्या पर्पस से आए. Question Swami repeated. So it happened like a twice, and that other disciple, he was started thinking, yes, he asked the same question, same in the evening, even at afternoon, evening also. So some three instances happened, but the other person, right, he didn't get, or he wasn't like, you know, what was the situation from his inside. So he actually paid much attention, or he didn't look on those words. And maybe I think by next or some, he actually left the ashram as well. Later Swamiji told, like, that soul was very, you know, clear soul, and the like the soul to, for this purpose, to meet a soul, actually when he took birth, it's acting, but now after being into this world, like, it's forgotten. And that person was a very, like, you know, wealthy, rich person also. Now he's forgotten those things and not really the purpose. So what happens is, we don't know what Swamiji is saying. So we be very uh, focused and attend, very much, keep our all organs open, eyes, ears completely open to understand Swamiji is saying. So that is very much important, and it's we don't do mistakes. We do mistakes again and again and again. And Sadhguru also, it's like a father. If a kid do a mistake, he again tries. So he again gives the chance, and everything is there. It's not like don't do so. Those things are there. It's so I just wanted to add these points from my side. So don't worry about that. Definitely we miss something, but if we miss, Sadhgurudev gives us another opportunity. But there are many things. So thank you. I think I interrupted Navinji. If you wanted to ask as well, please go ahead, Navinji.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Raji. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I think the sound was breaking a little bit from Raji, but I hope we were able to hear him or get the whole context.
Yeah,
In
Vijay,
fact, yeah.
we should have a small session as to what the personal etiquette should be when we meet Swamiji. Because when we meet Swamiji, especially in the Vyakt form,
Yeah.
even the basic etiquettes, sometimes we get confused because he will tell you to take a chair, and I don't want to sit on a chair, I want to sit on the floor right in front of him. He will repeat, no, please don't sit here, go and take the chair. So am I going against the commandment of my Guru, or am I okay in terms of following what I like to follow? So these are...
yeah, these are all, and Swamiji is very subtle, so he will look at your every move because he is judging our feeling by every bit of it. When Swamiji says something, what is the thought is coming in our mind? Swamiji is able to hear that also. Just think about it.
Yeah.
Swamiji is able to hear every little thought that we are creating within our mind.
Mm-hmm.
Swamiji is able to sense every little gesture that we are making in our body. And everything is passing a message to Swamiji. So when Swamiji sees that by all aspects now this disciple is surrendered to me, it is only then the Sar Shabd, the secret, the ultimate secret is revealed. And that is why only those who are the dear and the purest soul gets the fifth stage of Vihangam Yoga. I mean, it is like that. Yeah.
Jai Sadhgurudev. Something also, because the talk is regarding the Swamiji Adesh. So recently I was talking to Aishwarya ji, Yogesh Vasisht ji from Singapore, his wife. And, when I asked, just like that, how did you join Vihangam Yoga and, journey so far? During that conversation, she told a very recent story, just a story of 2-3 months back. What she said that just before in India, I mean, now she shifted to India. She's back in India, and before lockdown started in India, they were in Mumbai, and Aishwarya ji was at her place, her father's place, and Yogesh ji was at his own place. So during that time, they were at their own place for whatever reason, and then all of a sudden, lockdown started in India. So when the lockdown started, Swamiji called both of them that you guys should come to ashram. So, first, of course, when they heard, they said, it is not possible. It is lockdown. Cannot go out. Then, and by that time, when Swamiji called, they came to know that coronavirus has came to the building where they were living, opposite to that building. So some people were affected there. Then after some more days, again Swamiji called and said, no, you should come to ashram. You should not stay there. So they again started thinking, okay, what should I do now? Swamiji is calling again and again. Then they said, okay, Swamiji, we will plan for coming. So they booked the ticket, but because a lot of the flights and everything were not on a regular basis, so they were not getting the ticket immediately. Swamiji again called, said, okay, did you book your ticket or not? And if you're not able to come to, I think maybe Allahabad airport, go to Varanasi, and from there you come, or somehow come here. So they felt this urgency, and then they booked the ticket. They booked it after a week time. And then during that week also, Swamiji called 2-3 times just to make sure, are you coming or not? And then they basically started the journey, and both of them, they came to ashram. And well before coming also, Aishwarya ji talked to her parents also that you guys also let's go to ashram. Swamiji is calling us, so let's go. So Aishwarya ji's father said, no, I can't go. If I go, then who would play with these kids and all that? He said, okay, but we are going. So both of them came to ashram. When they came to ashram, Swamiji gave a strict instruction to everybody in the ashram. He set a boundary saying that, okay, nobody should cross this boundary of the ashram. Nobody. So, of course, people were following that instruction. Then after some time, a few days later, then Swamiji said, give the name of 8 people, saying that these 8 people should not come out of this building also. And among those 8 people, it was Aishwarya ji and Yogesh ji, both husband and wife were also having in the list name. So they were staying there. So what happened one day, I think I don't remember what she said, but for some reason Yogesh ji came out from that building. And prior to that, actually Swamiji also was saying to Yogesh ji that you should start walking every day. And these guys were very much tired. So someday they would walk, someday they would not walk. And then Swamiji set up one sevak with him, saying that, okay, you need to make sure that Yogesh ji walks every day. And then they were, within that boundary also, that, okay, you should not come out from this building. One day, Yogesh ji just came out for whatever reason, maybe for seva or whatever, I don't know, I don't remember what she said. And next day, he started feeling that having the fever, and symptoms of, coronavirus started coming in. So Swamiji, so next day by the evening, he had, almost all the symptoms were appearing. And then Swamiji said, okay, you should immediately go to hospital. So they said, okay, Swamiji, we will go. So maybe I will go next day. It's already almost 11 or 12 o'clock night. I think we'll go next day. It doesn't matter because I'm fine. I don't have any issue. Swamiji said, no, you have to go now. Now, he got that adesh also, have to go now. So he said, okay, Swamiji, we'll take auto and then we'll go. He said, no, you have to go in ambulance and ambulance should also have a doctor with you, then only you will go. So then everybody started kind of making arrangement, because that was Adesh. So ambulance came and there was a doctor inside that ambulance, and then they started going to the hospital. When they started the journey, on the way his oxygen dropped to very low. Luckily doctor was there, and it was ambulance, so he's been provided all the necessary treatment. And then finally, when he reached to the hospital, he started getting treatment. Next day, when doctor came, doctor said that if you would have reached here even little late, probably I would have not been able to save you. So finally, of course, he was saved, and today he's of course. Recovered completely, but Swamiji has given this still that now you should not do any seva right now. Your immune system is very weak, and you have to take care of yourself. So nobody would call him, and I give others to everybody, nobody would call him, and he needs to take complete rest. So, I mean, today the situation is that he's of course, trying to build his immunity, but internally he is very weak, and he was telling that I'm fine, Swamiji. I think I'm okay, but literally he's very weak, and his wife was saying that right now he's in a situation that he doesn't remember what he said half an hour ago, something like that. And of course, still he's trying to recover and getting better and better day by day, but he's still in the ashram. But what I'm trying to say here with this Sansmaran is that what I feel, that once you become dear disciple of Sadguru, even if you don't listen, even if you do something wrong, he would make sure that you do the things on the right time. And whatever, that big accident happens, normally it happens with the combination of three things: the time, the place, and the person. So we would try to just somehow take away one item from that, so that accident doesn't happen or get minimized. So, in spite of Yogesh ji saying no, I'm fine, I'm okay, and not working, and all that, if you look at the whole story, Swamiji already knew that this guy is going to get this corona. He was in his home, and from there he called and brought him to his arena. Kind of the ashram is completely his arena, Swamiji's arena, right? So he brought him to his periphery that, okay, you have to stay here. And I was really surprised. Later on, Aishwarya ji told that after, Aishwarya ji came out from her house, the corona actually entered to her house also, and everybody got affected. And her dad actually expired also, whom she was saying to come to the ashram. But that's unfortunate. But what I concluded with this is that all we need to do is, I think we need to try to become the dear disciple of Sadgurudev with whatever seva sadhana satsang that we hear in satsang. I think once we come to that phase, once we are under the shelter of Sadgurudev, then even if we make mistake, even if we disobey, I think Sadgurudev knows, who is doing what, and where he's lacking and she's lacking, and then probably he takes the right precaution. I would say. I think that's what is the learning that I got from this Sansmaran. I don't know. How do you guys feel it? But that's what I just wanted to share here. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is very motivating.
Yeah, but Navinji, Swamiji will always be a puzzle, you know. So that is our levels which will decide how much we can understand Swamiji. But when Swamiji will see certain danger, he will do commandment. Then you'll understand very clearly that Swamiji is giving commandment. Now I have to follow this.
Yeah, that is true. Vijay, I'm telling you, I'm expressing my genuine feelings. When I left ashram, it was quite late in the night, almost like 12:30 when I left. And on entire way, my parents' home in Haryana, in Faridabad, is almost 1.5 hours away from ashram. So we go through a very lonely, dark area night, and I was very concerned. My entire journey, I went on one hand, I went on thinking that I did not follow what my guru's direction was. On the other hand, no, I should not have bothered him. So in terms of the practicality, I did whatever was appropriate, but not comfortable at all in not following the direction. So
Yeah. So if Swamiji, let's say, insisted 2-3 times, then I think we should think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is now what Lalji also described. This makes sense that if we insist on unity, we should take it as a commandment. If we say just once, then it could be a practical maybe.
Right. Etiquette. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Vijay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all. I think we have exceeded the time today, but it was very learning for us. Yeah, very good learning for us. Okay, thank you all. We'll meet again next week. Let's conclude with Shantipat Ishaji.
Thank you, Vijayji. Shanti Pat. हे प्रभु शांति स्वरूप हो, शांति शांति में शांति, शांति शांति जन शांति हो, पूर्ण शांति में शांति। हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व शांति। देव सदा फल शांति में, शांति शांति सुख शांति। बोले सद्गुरुदेव भगवान की जय। बैक टू विजय जी।
Jai Sadhudev, everybody. See you again next week. Thank you.